Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari.
Jaya Gopi
Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari.
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari.
Yashodanandana Brajajana Janjana
Yashodanandana Vrajajandaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Vrajajandaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama
Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe
Jaya Radha Madhava
Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram
Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna
Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Shri Radhe.
Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Prabhupada,
Prabhupada Jaya Shila Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari
Haribol,
Bol, Hari
Haribol,
Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitya Gaura Haribol.
Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayam Udirete. Naste Prayasu Adresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistuke Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayatam Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Pande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Today's verse is obviously from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's verse Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 16. So if Ram Kanaya, if you can share the link to that verse, if anybody wants to, if they haven't got the Bhagavatam in front of them, they can follow it through the chat and to the link on the chat. Just give it a few minutes. Okay.
Prabhu, I think he's a bit tied up in deity worship.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so it's on database. So if anybody needs it, I'll put the link up myself. Just give me a second. So I've just put the link up so you can follow it through there. Okay. So I'll just, yeah, so it's again, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 16. So I'll repeat the verse after me as well. Susrusa Shraddha Adhanasya
Shushrusho Shraddhanasya
Vasudeva Katharuchi
Vasudeva Katharuchi
Shanmahat Sevaya Vipraha
Shanmahat Sevaya Vipraha
Punya Tirtha Nisavanat
Punya Nisavanat
Susrusa Sada Adhanasya
Shushrusho
Vasudeva Katharuchi
Vasudeva Katharuchi
Janmahat Sevaya Vipraha
Shanmahat Sevaya Vipraha
Punya Tirtha Nisavanat
Punya Tirtha Nisavanat
Susrusa Sradha Adhanasya
Shushrushoshadhanasya
Vasudeva Katharuchi
Vasudeva Katharuchi
Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha
Syanmahatsevaya Vipraha
Punya Tirtha Nisvanat.
Punyatirtha Nisevanat.
So I'll say the whole verse. Susrusa Sradha Adhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punya Tirtha Nisvanat. Together, everyone.
Susrushoha Swadhanasya Vasudeva
Vasudeva
Katharuchi
Katharuchi
Syanmahaseveya Vipraha
Punyatirtha
Nishevanat.
So okay, I'll read the the synonyms. So if you can repeat after me as well. Susrusa, one who is engaged in hearing.
Susrusa,
One who engaged in hearing.
Shraddha Dhanasya, with care and attention.
Shraddha Dhanasya with care and attention.
Vasudeva, in respect to Vasudev.
Vasudeva in respect to Vasudeva.
Katha, the message.
Katha the message.
Ruchi, affinity.
Yujiha affinity.
Tyat is made possible.
Sya
is made
possible.
Mahat Sevaya, by service rendered to pure devotees.
Mahasevaya service rendered to pure devotees.
Vipraha, or twice born.
Vipraha or twice born.
Punya Tirtha, those who are cleansed of all vice.
Punyatirtha, those who are cleansed of all vice.
Nisvanat, by service.
Nishevanat by service.
Prabhus, if you want to repeat, lead the verse.
Susruso Shradhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Susrusa Sradha Adhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nisvanat. Anybody else? Any Prabhus?
Shraddhadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchihi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Susrusa
Shraddhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahasevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Any more Prabhus?
Susruso Shradhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Susrusa
Shraddhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahasevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Mataji's?
Shushruho Sharadhathanasya Vasudeva Katharuchihi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Shraddhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahasevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Shushrushoshadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanata.
Shraddhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahasevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'll read the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Translation. O twice born sages, By serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So this is yet another amazing verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, a very important verse. It's good to remember this verse. I'll read the purport now. The conditioned life of a living being is caused by his revolting against the Lord. There are men called devas, or godly living beings, and there are men called asuras, or demons, who are against the authority of the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, a vivid description of the asuras is given, in which it is said that the asuras are put into lower and lower states of ignorance, life after life, and so sink to the lower animal forms and have no information of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. These asuras are gradually rectified to God consciousness by the mercy of the Lord's liberated servitors in different countries according to the supreme will. So that's interesting. It says different countries. We think of God consciousness and activities related to Supreme Personality of Godhead taking place just in India, but here Prabhupada actually mentions different countries. And we know of this because the example is that Lord's representatives appear in different countries like Jerusalem, Jesus Christ, to spread the holy name. So I'll read that again. These asuras are gradually rectified to God consciousness by the mercy of the Lord's liberated servitors in different countries according to the supreme will. Such devotees of God are very confidential associates of the Lord, and when they come to save human society from the dangers of godlessness, they are known as the powerful incarnations of the Lord, as sons of the Lord, as servants of the Lord, or as associates of the Lord. But none of them falsely claim to be God themselves. This is a blasphemy declared by the asuras, and the demoniac followers of such asuras also accept pretenders as God or his incarnation. In the revealed scriptures, there is definite information of the incarnation of God. No one should be accepted as God or an incarnation of God unless he is confirmed by the revealed scriptures. The servants of God are to be respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas or Tirthas, and they preach according to particular time and place. The servants of God urge people to become devotees of the Lord. They never tolerate being called God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God himself according to the indication of the revealed scriptures, but he played the part of a devotee. People who knew him to be God addressed him as God, but he used to block his ears with his hands and chant the name of Lord Vishnu. He strongly protested against being called God, although undoubtedly he was God himself. The Lord behaves so as to warn us against unscrupulous men who take pleasure in being addressed as God. The servants of God come to propagate God consciousness, and intelligent people should cooperate with them in every respect. By serving the servant of God, one can please God more than by directly serving the Lord. The Lord is more pleased when he sees that his servants are properly respected, because such servants risk everything for the service of the Lord, and so are very dear to the Lord. The Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita 18, chapter 18, verse 69, that no one is dearer to him than one who risks everything to preach his glory. By serving the servants of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants, and thus become qualified to hear the glories of God. The eagerness to hear about God is a first qualification of a devotee eligible for entering the kingdom of God. Om Agnanatimarandhyasya Gnanam Janasalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruye Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadadayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupa Sagadjatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padasa Gana Lalita Sri Visakhapanta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopise Gopiha Kanto Radha Kanto Namostute Apta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vishabhanu Sudari Pranamami Hare Vanshikalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Disparine. So we just read that verse. I'll repeat the verse again. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. So this verse is, as I mentioned earlier, is a very important verse, and it's worth remembering. And as we read the purport, it's amazing purport, very good realizations from Prabhupada, where he shares his realizations. So just so here, the couple of points that I pick up from this. I was meditating on this verse last night, and I couldn't sleep actually, but that's another story. It's the faith that we have, and from faith, it's progressing to performing devotional services. So, what is faith? Faith is unflinching trust in something very sublime. Faith gives us the confidence in whatever we are pursuing. And if you follow the instructions of those who are following that process, then our faith develops. Faith is also, in Sanskrit, is Shraddha. So some people say, I would have faith if I saw God before me, before my eyes. Then my faith would be complete. Then I would believe in God if I saw God before me. But we can see in history that when Krishna was present on this planet, and he was present before many people, and yet those very same people did not believe that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They did not accept him as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. We hear of Duryodhana, even though Krishna was present before him, and those around him, like the Pandavas, Bhishmadev, Vidura, the Mahatmas, they respected, and they had deep faith and respect that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they respected him in that way. And yet, to Duryodhana, Krishna was just a cowherd boy who played flute. To him, and possibly to many people, God is somebody, if they saw somebody, they would expect God to be somebody big, very big. But Krishna appears in a form that's easily for us to understand and relate to him as well. So faith is something that comes about when we are curious. We are curious to know about God. And from curiosity, we develop a hankering to find out more about Krishna. And then when we find out about Krishna, our faith is kindled, and our faith is then enhanced when we associate with devotees. So that was one point I wanted to touch on, was our faith. And the next points that I sort of wanted to talk about also was association and serving pure devotees, because that is the key. By associating with devotees and serving devotees is a key to maintaining our faith in Krishna. Those who have followed this path and have dedicated their life to bhakti yoga, they can guide us to this path of Krishna consciousness and to maintain our faith in that way. In the Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis who were the followers of Lord Chaitanya, who was Krishna himself, who appeared in Kali Yuga to give us instructions on how to practice our Krishna consciousness. So Rupa Goswami in Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu, and later on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, explains the process of bhakti, the various stages of bhakti, and they start with faith, shraddha, and from faith we then do association of devotees is the next stage, which is sadhu sangha, and from that through the association of devotees who then engage us in devotional service, which is then called bhajana kriya, where we execute devotional service with faith in the association of devotees. And that leads us to clearing unwanted things, material desires, releasing those material desires, and then attaching ourselves more firmly in devotional service. That process is called anartha nivritti. And as we cleanse ourselves, as we purify ourselves, then we develop steadiness in devotional service, nishtha. And as we are steady in our devotional service, we obviously maintaining our faith, we're executing devotional service, we develop a taste for devotional service, a deep taste for devotional service. We get great pleasure from performing devotional service. And this is called ruchi. And that leads us to the next stage, which is attachment for devotional service, which is referred to as ashakti. Ashakti means giving up material things as well. And finally, we develop bhav, ecstatic emotions, whilst immersed in devotional service, which then leads us to prema, which is the pure love of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is our ultimate aim, is to develop this love of Godhead. So these are the various stages that have been chalked out by our previous acharyas, so we can see the various stages that we go through in order to attain pure love of Godhead. Now, I shall go a little bit more into some of the contents of these processes. But before I do, I think also just want to mention that something that Prabhuji also mentions when we're having a class. He mentions that in our Krishna consciousness, there are some basics and he mentions the A, B, C, D aspects or processes of performing bhakti, being in Krishna consciousness. Does anybody remember this A, B, C, and D, the basics?
Association, Prabhu?
So A is the association of devotees. Yet again, we are emphasizing the importance of association of devotees in our Krishna consciousness. Can somebody else tell me what B stands for?
Books, Prabhu.
Books, that's right, Prabhu, books. So these are transcendental books, not ordinary books. These transcendental books, when read in association with devotees, help us to progress in our Krishna consciousness. And by discussing these books, we also gain more knowledge and we firm up our faith in Krishna consciousness. So what is C?
Chanting.
Chanting. That's right, Prabhu, it's chanting. So that is devotional service. So chanting removes, cleanses us, purifies us. So there is a verse we sing every Sunday morning, and hopefully most of us try to sing it every day. So from the Shishaktakam, does anybody know that verse?
Which one, Prabhu?
So I can tell you which one, but it's the one that mentions that it cleanses us, purifies
Cleansing
us.
the dust, the mirror of the heart.
That's right, Prabhu. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. Yes, so that's Krishna. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. He has given us 8 instructions. He's actually written down these 8 instructions, and these are the only instructions he wrote down. And it's telling us how to perform devotional service, in particular chanting. So it says the chanting, when performed without offenses, cleanses the heart and cleanses the dust from the mirror of our heart, and removes the obstacles and yes, so chanting is emphasized as well. So from association, reading books with devotees, chanting, and chanting can also be kirtana. It's just the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, as we all know, and that's what's been given to us by Lord Chaitanya. And D, what's D for? Does anybody remember D? Sorry? Diet. Sorry, Prabhu, Krishna Chaitanya, you said something else?
Deity worship also sometimes.
Deity worship, no, yeah, that comes later on. That's as we develop further, then deity worship is one of the considerations. But D is actually diet. What do we mean by diet?
Krishna Prasad.
That's right, Prabhu. It's Krishna Prasad. So it's basically whatever we eat, we first offer to Krishna, so it's sanctified. Whatever we do, we offer in sacrifice to Krishna. And Yat Karosi Yat Dadati, the slok from Bhagavad Gita that says whatever we do, we offer to Krishna as sacrifice. So we offer bhoga to our deities, and Krishna sanctifies the bhoga, and it becomes prasadam, and that's what we mean by diet. So we only honor prasad, which is first offered to Krishna, and we only offer sattvic food. Krishna also says what to offer to him. There's a verse in chapter 9. Does anybody remember that verse? I'll give you a clue. Yes, that's right. That's right. Pushpam patram phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayakati tadaham bhakti bharatam asnami prayat atmana. If one offers me with love and devotion. So these A, B, C, D are the basics. So when we first come to Krishna consciousness, devotees help us, and they remind us that these 4 steps or 4 things that we should bring into our life so that we can have faith and maintain our faith and develop our faith in Krishna and in our sadhana bhakti, and to progress in our sadhana bhakti. They recommend this the basics A, B, C, and D. So faith, it all starts with faith. Well, actually it starts with our curiosity to find out more about why we're here, what is the purpose of life. And everybody wants to be successful in life as well, whether it's material or spiritual, but that's the nature of the human being, that it wants to be successful. And you see that in material life, that people just want to be successful. They want to be, and success can be in many things. They want to be famous, or they want to be very wealthy. They want to be very strong. And these are some of the characteristics or qualities that the soul has. And they have this quality. They want to hanker for these qualities because we are part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna has these qualities as in full. And therefore we as soul also want to develop some of these qualities. But we typically tend to try for one of these qualities. We want to be famous, we want to be strong. So in spiritual life also, we want success in life. And we try to understand, what does that success mean? How can we be successful in life? And successful in life is that we leave this material world never to return. And then we have to understand, how does that happen? We first understand that we're obviously the soul, not this body. And then we then we then read the books, and in association with the association of devotees, to understand, well, how do we progress in our spiritual life? What is spiritual life? And then how can we get out of this material bondage, leave this prison house, and go back to Godhead? And what is the process for that? So I outlined some of the processes earlier, and I read through them, and I just want to see if we've actually remembered some of them. So I'll start off with, so I said faith is, we are curious, and then we start developing faith in Krishna. Does anybody remember the next one? So I outlined 9. So the next one was association of devotees, sadhu sangha. That's right, sadhu sangha. So we can see that because the devotees, they are enlightened, they can show us the path. You know, it says that my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge and showed me the path. So we can see that by association of devotees, and even Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says in 434, slok 434, he says that take direction, submit yourself to a spiritual master. So this spiritual master, devotees, spiritual master can be anybody who can give us instruction. So the verse he says in Krishna tells Arjuna is, I think somebody might be able to remember this verse, right? Tad vidhi, how does it go? Tad vidhi pranipatena
परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेशन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः.
That's right. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te gnanam gnanina tattva darshina. That's right. And the translation, just to learn the truth, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So here Krishna is saying that approach somebody who knows the knowledge, who has the knowledge, and that person can, that devotee can guide you. So that association of devotee cannot be minimized. It is so important in our progress, and it is important that we take association of devotees. So that's sadhu sangha. Even I was just thinking. Sorry, I got some notes here. So by taking the in Srimad Bhagavatam in I think it's Canto 6. It says, if one associates with a pure devotee, follows his instructions, and serves a pure devotee, his life will be successful. So here Krishna is telling us, so this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, And so we sang today, from Guru Astaka, and in one of the stanzas, it's if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. This is the success of devotional service. So that particular stanza is verse is Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado. So that is satisfying the spiritual master, and Krishna is automatically satisfied. So when Krishna is satisfied, his mercy flows back through the parampara, through the acharyas, and by us associating with devotees, we then get the mercy of Krishna through the devotees. And through the mercy of devotees, only through the mercy and blessings of Krishna can we progress in our spiritual life. So we learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. We submit to a spiritual master. So association of devotees is required in order to progress in our spiritual life. So the next one was execution of devotional service, bhajana kriya. I'm sure you all remember that particular step. So devotees then engage us in devotional service. So then we then establish a relationship with Krishna. By performing devotional service, which can be, there are 9 stages of performing devotional service. Does anybody remember that particular sloka from Srimad Bhagavatam that Prahlad Maharaj says? Starts with Shravanam.
Shravanam, Kirtanam,
Pranam.
Archanam,
Smaranam.
Satyam, Dasyam,
Pranam Padasevanam.
Padasevanam, Atmanivedanam.
Atma Nivedanam. Yes, please by heart this particular sloka. It's very important as well. So here Prahlad Maharaj is saying the various ways we can perform devotional service. And Shravanam, Kirtanam. So hearing and listening, and we hear many times how important it is to hear. Hearing is a very it's the most important sense we have. Very fine-tuned, that it awakens us when we hear the Maha Mantra. So devotional service by chanting is the recommended process, and it's mentioned by Lord Chaitanya mentioned this as well, and it's from the Brihad Naradiya Purana, that in this Kali Yuga, the only way to liberate from this material world is by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Gatir Anyata. So it stresses this 3 times to give the importance to this particular verse, that chanting is very, very important, and chanting without offenses. Every morning we read the 10 offenses, so we should always bear that in mind when we're chanting. And then we can, whilst we're chanting, what we're saying when we're chanting. Does anybody know what understanding is that Prabhupada gave us when we chant the Maha Mantra?
To engage us in the devotional
Yes,
service. Yeah.
that's right. So we're begging to Krishna that please engage me in your devotional service. Please give me service. And therefore Krishna then sends his representatives like the spiritual masters, previous acharyas, devotees of Krishna, pure devotees of Krishna's, and also he sends his books. He's given us his books and through association of devotees. So we then perform devotional service. We beg for Krishna, give us devotional service, so that then the devotees engage us in devotional service to develop our Krishna consciousness. And our ultimate aim is obviously love of Godhead. So execution of devotional service was the next stage. So that was the 3rd stage of progressing in our bhakti. Does anybody remember the 4th one?
After Bhajana Kriya.
Yeah, after Bhajana Kriya.
Clearing Anartha Nivritti, clearing of the.
That's yes. Yes, Prabhu, it is. It is clearing the unwanted impurities within ourselves, and by performing devotional service, and by chanting is the main method of devotional service that has been mentioned. And there are others as well, obviously, worshipping, kirtana, and so forth. But by chanting, we clear the unwanted things from our heart, and we clear the blazing forest of material life is dissipated from our lives. So it's the impurities in our life. So steadily, by being firm in our chanting without offenses, we gradually remove the impurities that are within our heart. And these are basically not just in this lifetime. We've gathered these impurities life after life, so many lifetimes. Obviously, we can't remember how many lifetimes. After so many lifetimes, we've gathered so many impurities. We need to cleanse that. Once we develop that purity, we clear that purity from within our heart, we then gain more attachment for devotional service, and we see our bhakti develop. The next stage after Anartha Nivritti is, does anybody remember?
Nishtha.
It's before Ruchi.
Nishtha.
Nishtha. Yes, thank you, Pratap Maya. You're saving the day, Prabhu. It's steadiness in devotional service. Steadiness in devotional service. So, it's not, steadiness means that we maintain a regulative process. So most of us chant daily, and we do other activities in Krishna consciousness, like reading, offering, so forth. But it's being steady in that. We can't sort of say that, you know what, I'll chant at the weekends because I have time at the weekends, and weekdays I won't have time, so I won't chant at the weekends. But no, we need to be regulated in our devotional service. It has to be a daily program, so that we are maintaining our attachment to Krishna that way, making sure that we're feeding the soul. We can't sort of say that, you know what, so if we compare that, if I just chanted at the weekend, what if I just, for example, ate at the weekend? Why, I don't have time to eat in a weekday. No, we need to sustain the body. So we do automatically, we do have prasad. We honor prasad every day. Similarly, we should make sure that we perform devotional service every day. So in Nectar of Instruction, there's a verse that sort of, Nectar of Instruction was written by one of the Goswamis, 6 Goswamis. I think it might have been Rupa Goswami or Sanatan Goswami. I'm not quite sure. If somebody knows, they can pipe up. But it was written, and Rupa, these instructions were written based on the instructions given by Lord Chaitanya to the Goswamis. And it's the the sloka is Utsaha Nischayat Dharyat Tat Karma Pravartanat Sangotyaga Sattovrite Sadbir Bhakti Prasidyati. So it's basically 6 principles which are favorable to execution of devotional service. And they are basically, we have to be enthusiastic about our devotional service. We've got to be really enthusiastic. We want to do it. And then we start enjoying it. So we got to be really enthusiastic, and we endeavor with confidence that this is the sublime method that will release us from this material bondage, and we'll develop love for Godhead by this process. And we have to be patient as well. And we have to act according to the regulative principles and perform devotional service, associating with devotees and visiting holy dham. These principles are favorable to the execution of devotional service. So, so I've mentioned faith. We start with faith. We then take association of devotees. We execute, the devotees engage us in devotional service, and by performing devotional service, we go through a cleansing process, and we purify ourselves. Remove the impurities are removed by performing devotional service without any offenses, and then there is steadiness in devotional service. The next stage is, I think Mataji mentioned it, right?
Ruchi.
Ruchi, that's right.
Great taste of devotional.
Taste for devotional service. So so what taste for devotional service? What does that mean, Mataji? Could you say something about that?
Taste for devotional service is when you, want to serve Lord directly, like
Spontaneously.
Deity worship at home, making garlands for the deities, cooking for the deities,
Chanting as well.
Chanting, yeah.
Reading. We enjoy the association of devotees. So but it's spontaneous. We don't have to. We want to do it automatically. From this stage, we develop bhava, which is we start enjoying the devotional service, and we further immerse ourselves in devotional service. And finally, that leads us to prema. Prema is pure love of Godhead. So then, when we have love of Godhead, we automatically want to do things for Krishna. We want to be with Krishna. We want to be in his company. When we love somebody, we want to be in their company. We want to be in their association all the time. And so when we have prema, we want to be with Krishna whenever we can. We want to be with Krishna. And how can we be with Krishna? It's through devotional service, also mostly through association of devotees. And you can get, people might be saying that we're in the pandemic and there's a lockdown. I might get fined if I associate with devotees. I might get fined £200. So how do we get association of devotees? Are there other ways of getting association of devotees? There is, right? So we have all the facilities, right? We're doing it now, aren't we? So we can listen to classes given by devotees, senior devotees. Prabhupada sacrificed so much to give us this process. And that's what devotees do. Devotees, like Krishna says, doesn't it? In the purport, it said as well, Krishna said, a devotee who preaches my message is very dear to me. So that's in the Bhagavad Gita, right? That was in the purport as well today. And so Prabhupada, he gave us this process. He sacrificed so much. He could have just resided in Vrindavan and stayed in Vrindavan, but no, he left Vrindavan because he wanted to spread this message and fulfill the order of his spiritual master. So I just wanted to go back to the association of devotees and how important that is. So we hear we have an example and we listen to an example. We hear the example of Narad Muni before, when he was a son of a maid servant, and how his life became successful purely by the association of devotees. For 4 months, Chaturmasya, he served devotees, and he honored the remnants of prasad. So we can see that the association of devotees, all these stages are important, but association of devotees is very key to successful execution of being on Krishna consciousness and successfully performing Krishna consciousness. So anybody else remember any association that somebody had where it changed their life? I mean, recently as well. I mentioned Narad Muni. Is there anybody else that one can think of?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
So I remember when I think that was in 2018.
Yes.
Ajit Krishna Maharaj came to UK and he stayed with me, like stayed in my house.
Yes.
And I got his valuable association. I got a chance to serve him, to speak to him. And that was the turning point of my life. So just an association with a pure devotee, like a moment's association,
Yes.
changed many things in my life. I can still relate to that now.
See, so that is. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that. So that shows us the importance of association. And of course, Ram Sheshta Prabhu remembers because he did the play. He was in the play, Prabhupada play. So I'm sure he remembers. So Prabhu, do you want to share what about something on that play? About the association of devotees. So when Srila Prabhupada, he got a moment's association of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, His Divine Grace, and his life totally changed. Just by hearing him, his message, and also receiving that mercy from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, his life totally changed. And he took on the instruction so seriously. So he's very steady in his devotional service, as we all know. And only by Prabhupada's mercy that we are so fortunate that we are receiving this message of Krishna consciousness, how to make this life successful. So we can see the association of devotees cannot be minimized. It's a very important aspect of our life, and we can take that association. Obviously, if we didn't have the lockdown, we could meet and we can take association. But we can take association through our daily programs that we do. There are weekday programs that are going on, and we Bhagavad Gita classes, many other programs. Yesterday there was a program where Mataji cooked, and she was showing us how to make prasad, make bhoga for Krishna, and then offer that to Krishna and honoring that prasad. So showing what sort of prasad, what sort of bhoga we can offer to Krishna. So that again, association of devotees. So we can have fun with devotees as well. Don't think it's just serious. We can enjoy ourselves, can discuss many topics, and it's a blissful time when we're in the association of devotees. I know it's a sacrifice sometimes, especially like this morning when we have to wake up early and we do this program, but we are finding that by doing these programs we get that association of devotees, and it charges our battery for the rest of the week, and maintains us, gives us the confidence and the faith to continue in our sadhana and Krishna consciousness. So I'm just going to end there, and I'm just going to read the translation again, which was, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So again, once again, this is truly an amazing verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if anybody has any, share any thoughts, any comments, if you have any questions, I'll try my best. to answer them as well.
Okay. Oh,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu, just quick one. This book that you mentioned, The Nectar of Instruction, very
Yes.
important book. It's actually written by Rupa Goswami.
Rupa Goswami.
And
Okay,
it's
thank you
called
very much.
Upadeshamrita.
It's a very good book. And our dear Pratap Maya Prabhu has these books. If anybody wants to read this book, they can approach Pratap Maya Prabhu.
It's a must read, no? Everyone, all devotees.
You should all read this book. Yes,
Yeah.
agreed. Sorry, Prabhu, carry on. You were saying.
No, yeah, no, just it's a must read. That's all. And
Yeah.
if we don't have it, we can't read it. So
Yes.
first thing to do is get the book, then we can read the book for sure.
Yes.
And
So
there's only 11 verses, so
It's a very small book,
yeah.
but it's a very important book. It gives us instructions in and how to progress in our spiritual life, what steps we should take, and it's a very informative book and very helpful book to help us progress in our spiritual life. I remember reading that book almost 10 years ago. We used to go to a Sangha, and Mataji used to teach us from that book, and she used to insist on us learning the slokas as well. And it's one of the books that's covered in the Bhakti Shastri as well. So, which tells us how important that book is as well. And Prabhupada wanted us to read this book. So it's important that we also follow the instructions given by our acharyas. And the instructions they're giving us is because they want us to progress. It's their mercy, really. That's what it is. When the instruction is a mercy and from the acharyas. Any questions? Any comments?
I've got a question for you.
That's good.
In terms of, thank you
Yes.
for a wonderful class. I really took a lot from it, so thank you very much, Prabhu. Really appreciate it. In terms of nishta, steadiness, does that mean like all lust, greed, anger, envy is out of the heart?
No, yeah. So if you look at the various stages that were mentioned, just because we move on to a another stage or develop onto another stage, doesn't mean that we forget the previous stages. So, for example, I mentioned faith, and then association is the next step, then execution of devotional service, and what you mentioned, and the next stage is until we hit steadiness in devotional service, nishtha. We still have to have association of devotees. We still to help us progress, right? And
we don't give up
retain
the
our
faith to move.
Yeah. So we're still gonna have. We can. I don't think we can totally get rid of the material hankerings or the lust and the greed that we have, but it diminishes. It diminishes. What happens is that through steadiness, that greed turns from material into a spiritual greed. It starts moving towards the spiritual greed, where we have a greediness to perform devotional service, to associate, to perform devotional service, to be in association of devotees. So it's still there, but it's transformed into spiritual. We may, because we live in this material world, we may sort of occasionally sometimes still have that greed, but we'll have the realization that greed, that material greed, is not going to help us, right? So for somebody may have a greed for typically we see a greed for money, but a devotee, he will not have that greed with the view of that he'll have faith in Krishna, that Krishna will provide for me. I don't have to have that greed to get more and more money. And what is that money going to do for me? Is it something that, is it going to bring me happiness?
Misery, more misery.
More misery, that's right. So when we realize that, so if we just look at one of the things, even lust is in the same mode. Any of these things, lust, greed, envy, pride, they don't help us in our Krishna consciousness. They'll actually make us more miserable. And when we and when we associate with devotees, we, through conversations with them and through their association, they will enlighten us and they will show to us that this is what happens. And we can see practically as well, it's very, you don't see people who are very wealthy. They hardly ever smile, actually. They hardly ever smile. It seems like they're mostly unhappy. No matter what they have so much, and you'd think they would be happy, right? But they're actually not happy. You don't see them smiling. So this is what happens, that greed that they have. It's what's the word? It's not satisfied. That hankering, whatever they have for, it's not satisfied. So they're always going to be miserable. But for a devotee, that greed gets transformed into spiritual greed. And sometimes, yes, we may sort of, I wouldn't say it's a fall down, but we may sometimes think, oh, I wish I had this, but then when the devotee is thinking that I wish I had more money, then he's thinking that, oh, then I could do more charitable works. I could help this other devotee. He's struggling. I could help him, or I could help the temple. So it's not, I don't like to say the word greed, but his view of getting more of this material, like more money, is that he wants to use it for spiritual things. So that's my understanding. If anybody else has a different,
no, that answers it.
Yeah, thank
you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you for the nice discussion today.
Thank you.
Prabhu, I have 2 questions. So it was saying here that the asuras are put into lower and lower states of ignorance, life after life, and so sink to the lower animal forms and have no information of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. So does it mean that, does it mean that all the animals are asuras? This was my first question. And the second question, if you can repeat, just because I wanted to write it down. So the stages of the development, like Ruchi,
Okay. Yes.
this one, I just wanted to, yeah. So
Okay,
thank
I'll
you
share that as well.
for the discussion.
So what does asuras mean is what we have to understand first. Asuras means somebody who doesn't realize that he's the spirit soul and doesn't understand that there is the supreme personality of Godhead from whom we originate. So he doesn't believe in God, or if he believes in God, he thinks he's God, is something that was mentioned in the purport. So when that happens, where they don't believe in God, so atheist, in other words, so then they then perpetually become they're in the material world and they never come out of this material world, and they spiral into this material world, into lower species, because they're not doing anything spiritual to help them. Firstly, because they don't recognize that there's a supreme personality of Godhead. So their life becomes is not successful. They're wasting their life. But it's not a there's light at the end of the tunnel for people like asuras as well, people who are in that mode, animals. So animals, if I was hearing something by Tamal Krishna Goswami yesterday, where he was saying the devotees are always serving 24/7 in this, and he was at the temple, and he was saying in this temple, he says there are insects, there are rats, and he says what are they doing? They're feeding on the prasad that the devotees have accidentally dropped on the floor. And so what happens to them is, just by accidentally, by having that prasad, they get elevated. and then they come out of this cycle that they're in. So there is hope for them. And you also mentioned, Mataji, in the chat, that there was one boy in France who was intoxicated and who was involved in all sorts of activities. So the mode is one of an asura, but just by meeting Prabhupada and touching Prabhupada's feet, he became a devotee and he started distributing books. He understood. And so there is hope for them. And I think it's also mentioned in the purport, just by a moment's association of a devotee, that there is hope for them. I hope that answers your first part of your question.
Mm-hmm.
The second part, so these are the different stages of bhakti, performing bhakti. So by curiosity, we develop faith, shraddha. Then sadhu sangha, which is the association of devotees, is the next stage, which leads us on to the devotees engage us in devotional service. So we then execute devotional service. And by performing devotional service, such as chanting, hearing classes, we clear the impurities within our heart. And that's called anartha nivritti. Then the next stage, once we become, we start purifying ourselves, is we develop steadiness in devotional service, nishtha. Then taste, when from steadiness comes taste for devotional service, ruchi, where we enjoy performing devotional service. And then we get an attachment for devotional service, is the next stage. And that's called ashakti. So we are hopeless. Ashakti means also hopeless, but we are hopelessly in love with Krishna. We hopelessly want to serve Krishna. So that is a feeling that we have, where we just want to perform devotional service. From that stage comes bhava, which is we get ecstatic emotions whilst we immerse in devotional service. And the last stage is prema, pure love of Godhead. So those are the 9 stages of bhakti. And this was from Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu. It's a book by Rupa Goswami. So this is when you get onto, that book is something that we read once we've gone through Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, obviously, Srimad Bhagavatam, some of the other books. And as we progress, and it's part of the Bhakti Shastri course as well.
Mm-hmm.
So recommended the course. Yeah, I'm advertising that course again, aren't I? Yeah. Okay, yes.
Attachment for devotional service, how do we call that?
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, attachment for devotional service.
Then we develop bhav in devotional service. So we get
attachment is bhav, right? What
attachment is attachment is ashakti.
Ashakti.
Yes.
Ashakti. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then bhava. Bhava is emotion, ecstatic emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions?
Just one comment, Prabhu. I think Mataji was mentioning about animals, and from the Bhagavad Gita, it says animals are vicious and they eat other animals purely because that is the conditioned way of life. They come into this world to perform that. So whenever they hear the name of Lord Krishna, maybe next life they will be come back as a human being. So that is their duty. That is why they're eating meat, right? We are not supposed to be eating meat because we're not animals. We're human form of life. As a result, our duty and our our position is not to eat meat, but to eat vegetables and everything else. I don't know if that helps at all. But
yes, Mataji.
That's in the Bhagavad Gita.
So there's a prescribed duty for all life form, and the natural condition for that life form. Yes, Mataji, thank you for sharing that. If there are no more questions, I'd like to go to any announcements. So if I'm aware the time is 9:30, So Pratap Maya, are there any announcements for this week? Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So we've got Gaura Purnima Festival on the 28th from 2 o'clock on Zoom. So all the messages for that will be going out today with the poster and the WhatsApp message. So please spread the mercy, share the love and Lord Chaitanya's mercy, and share the message and the content far and wide. It's an opportunity for all your family and friends all over the world to celebrate Gaura Purnima together through modern technology of Zoom and the internet. So please share the message, invite all your friends, family, contacts, friends. It's going to be a cultural celebration, focusing on the glories and the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's on Sunday on the 28th. We're also at the allotment today. So Jagannath's Garden has started for the year. So if any families want to get involved, it's a really nice meditation to sow seeds and grow crops to be offered to the Lord in the form of boga and distributed to the homeless. We've also food for all.
What time is, sorry, Prabhu, what time is that?
That's 1 o'clock. From
1 o'clock. And they should get
4.
in touch with you, Prabhu?
Yes, yeah, or Dominic Prabhu, who's online. He's the one that's headed it all up, or your Bhakti Vriksha leader, and they can provide a contact number, no problem. I think I put my contact number in the chat anyway, so if anyone wants any books that we'll discuss as well, reach out. We've got lots of books in stock for everyone to read. And there was one other thing as well. So the allotment, yes, with Food for All, we've just, the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've been helping refugees in Reading that have been subject to drinking unclean water out of toilet taps for the last 1.5 years. So we're providing them with 150 litres of water and fruits that have been offered to Lord Jagannath. So if anyone would like to be a part of that Food for All, they can reach out again to Vishal Prabhu or anything like that and just support the cause with the feeding the homeless and these other things. So we're probably going to put out maybe a fundraiser in the next few weeks for that. But if people want to engage in feeding the homeless with Mahaprasadam and providing refugees with clean water and fruits, then they just need to reach out and we can all come together for this cause to support our community. And it transpires that in this country, people can treat their pets better than they can treat displaced people in terms of clean water. So it's pretty criminal, but it is happening. And through Food for All and His Grace Parashram Prabhu, we've been tasked with ensuring this, basic necessity of clean water is being met in our local community. So there's one message. Okay, meditation pack. Yeah, we're still doing meditation pack. So you can make a donation. I'll send the details for postage and packaging, and we can get that sent out first class, and that will include a Gita, Japamala and mantras. So yeah, preaching is happening, although we can't physically meet yet. There are many ways we can send out books and different paraphernalia as well. So if you need cow soaps or Nasima oil or any of these things from Jagannath's boutique, then just reach out and we'll get those sent out first class as well. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the many messages. I hope everybody caught that. So Gaura Purnima is next Sunday. Once the message comes out, please reach out to all your friends, families, reach out to people so they can get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It's a very important festival for us as Gaudiya Vaishnava practitioners. And
there's one more. Sorry, one more as well. On Tuesday, there's no self-discovery series. It's been a outreach program happening online weekly, but this Tuesday there isn't, just so each Bhakti Vriksha can focus on their cultural presentation and offering to Lord Chaitanya for Gaura Purnima. So this week is an opportunity for everyone to focus on that service and rehearsals and things like that as well.
Thank you, Prabhu. So basically, all the Bhakti Vrikshas, if you can get your contributions for the coming Sunday for the festival, and also if you can get that message out early in the week so we can pass it on to our friends, that would be good. So that's good. And just to follow up on Food for Life, As Prabhu mentioned, if anybody wants to help, please reach out to Pratap Maya Prabhu as well. And if people like to do, they like to give some money to charity, like when it's a special occasion, like birthdays or anniversaries or something like that. Just bear that in mind. You can make good use of your Lakshmi in that way, and it reaches out to the very needy that we are trying to help in that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for a lovely class. Very inspiring. Just one announcement after this class, those who are members of the Mangalarti team, please join in about 5 minutes time. Thank you. Quick one,
Okay.
a quick one.
Okay, so we shall finish now. Anchakopatarubyascha kripasindhubhyacha patitanaham pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.